Hello and welcome to another glorious selection of patch notes. This time it is for Crusader Kings 3, the 1.1 patch notes, and there are quite a few patch notes. Yeah, there's a lot. This is a big chunky dev diary with an awful lot of patch notes for Crusader Kings 3, and it's so long, in fact, that I have teamed up with Enigmatic Rose 4, and we are going to be taking each a half of this dev diary and going through the patch notes, pointing out things that you may have missed or you may have glazed over with this exceptionally long length of the patch notes, pointing out those kind of things. And the first half of the patch notes will be over here on my channel, and then the second part of the patch notes will be going on to Enigmatic Rose 4's channel. So there will be a link in the description for her channel and for her video. So after you've watched this one, go and check that one out. And if you're coming over from Rose's channel after having watched her video on her half of the patch notes, welcome. Hi, hope you enjoy my patch notes video. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it, right? So this is, as aforementioned, a very, very chunky patch note dev diary, and it comes in at 5.3 Groogies in length. Groogie being the standard paradox unit of measurement. It is the the height of one Henrik Hansson, very handsome little Sconian. Yeah, so let's just get into the patch notes, shall we? The 1.1.0 patch, and I will say from the very start there are a couple of things that I'm looking to see here. A nerf maybe to the Norse expansion across the everywhere, and yeah, pretty much that, and a nerf to the amount of wives that end up sleeping around. Your soulmates, you know, being very adultery is something I'm looking to see fixed. So let's get into this. Game balance. Women being close to fertility cutoff now gives the low fertility marriage penalty. That's fine. So I think the cutoff is 45, so at 42 years old they'll be less likely to get married. It's fair. Being unable to inherit titles no longer blocks claim inheritance. Castrated bastard and disinherited still block claim inheritance, only from within your dynasty for disinherited. Okay, fair enough. Building a new temple now gives you much more piety, you can't do it too often. Cities and temples now follow the same cost scale as castles. Clan rulers now desire fewer spouses the lower their tier is. The piety penalty only triggers if they are below desired spouses. The numbers are Baron, Count once 1, Dukes 2, Kings 3, Emperors 4. This one's an interesting one because I had actually no idea what the secondary spouses were for, other than, of course, they give me more babies. I had no idea that it actually gave a piety penalty to not have too many of them, and other than, you know, mousing over the amount of piety you're getting and checking there really isn't any way to know. I had a look in the encyclopedia under concubines to see if it said there if there was any penalty, and honestly there was nothing there, so it's I'm glad to now know what it was I was missing. The piety hit from being below the desired spouses has been doubled, so it's a good job I know that this now exists, and I will always be sure to be at my full amount of spouses. Confederate partition, the one that most countries that I've played as start with, now ignores land held by vassals with title allegiance when there's titles within their own separate succession. So, for example, elective titles, titles with their own gender laws. This means no more creating a kingdom where all the vassals will go with another title. That one's very wordy. Ignores land held by vassals with title allegiance when there's titles with their own separate succession. So I guess maybe this would count for when maybe if Harald Hardrada conquers England and you've got two kingdoms with Confederate partition, although England has English elective, so maybe not. This is an interesting one. I'm going to have to look into that a bit more. Courtiers you have a kid with are now slightly more likely to stick around. Well, that's nice to know. Creating a title will now cause vassals de jure under it to lose title allegiance if their allegiance is to the title of the same tier. So creating the Empire of Italia as HRE will cause the Italian vassals to lose allegiance to the HRE. Fair enough, okay. So title allegiance is like de jure vassalhood. Fair enough. Denying call to arms now costs fame. Ah, finally, an actual cost involved to denying call to arms other than 10 opinion. Yeah, no, absolutely, this is a great change. I do worry, though, that it just means that we're going to be called into far too many wars, because you do get called in far too frequently to wars across the globe that you really have no business being a part of. Although, having said that, if you're getting those kinds of alliances, you're probably expecting them to help you. So is it really? Are you really justified in not wanting to help? So yeah, potentially reducing your level of fame. Denying offensive wars has a small impact, but denying defensive calls has a massive impact. Well, yeah, looks like you're going to be at war a lot more than you really wanted to be. Denying a defensive war now reduces opinion with your ally by -50. That's big. Offensive war is -20. Yeah, these used to be -10 for 5 years and -10 for 5 years, as far as I remember. Slash the opinion modifier from diplomacy by half. A diplomacy skill now gives prestige multiplier with an offset. Okay. Electors should now be less inclined to form or join independence factions unless there's another faith than their liege. Fix the pregnancy stance remaining unchanged for significant fertility spans before dropping drastically. Now the reduction in pregnancy chance is gradual. Example, before the couple's fertility dropping from 53 to 52 would cause the chance of pregnancy to drop from 3 to 2 per month, while now it'll go from 2.52 to 2.47. All right, cool. I guess that is a pretty big drop off if it's per month. For player cultures, the culture head now updates within a month when one ruler becomes bigger than another. That's nice to know. Dynasties, the dynasty takes most 1 month when an update. Yep, that makes sense. Greedy gift receivers now no longer demand insane amounts of additional gold. Thank you. It's really helpful because there's quite a few greedy people that I wanted to get involved in my plots, and it's just too expensive for the amount of value they give. AI is now much more likely to defend the conversion of heretical vassals. If their refusal would result in them being marked as criminals, that's nice. Make the AI less likely to collapse to a heresy. I like that. Heresiarchs will no longer accept demands of conversion. Denying a conversion request now gives the liege a revoke reason. Good. In addition to the imprisonment reason they already got. Outbreaks of heresy now increase the fervor of the affected faith much more positively. This means that large faiths are more likely to bounce back to a max fervor after a heresy outbreak. Good. I love that, because Catholicism very frequently fell to heresy far more than I felt was really justified. So yeah, that seems like it's a big boost to Catholicism. If a vassal asks for something in return for you asking them to convert faith, denying their request no longer gives you imprisonment revoke reason on them, because you're being impious by not parting with simple material wealth. That's fine. If you have a partition and your primary title has a special election form, the heir to that title will be the primary heir for your partition and get a share as long as they're a valid player heir, even if they otherwise wouldn't have been part of the partition or later in the partition order. Alright. So making elective titles, work, so you're not gonna lose your primary title, I guess. So we've increased the cooldown on asking vassals to convert faith to 15 years. It was 5 years. Inheritance succession can now go up for 6 generations upwards to find a distant relative rather than just 3. That's nice. It's now harder to murder someone you're at war with or murder their vassals and courtiers. Maximum success chance / secrecy of abduct schemes are now 85, down from 95. Alright, that makes abduct a bit harder to do. Practically impossible to abduct someone you're at war with a lesser penalty to their vassals and courtiers. Much harder to scheme to abduct rulers. There we go. This is the big balance change, because it used to be too easy to set an abduct plot in motion on a foreign ruler, and then when the pop-up is there where you want to confirm whether you're going to, set the plot in motion or not, the percentage chance of success is already locked in place. You would click that button and then declare war immediately before they're actually abducted, and then a day after the war starts, they are abducted, they're in your prison, you've got 100% war score, and you've got a 3-day war where you gain the entirety of the Kingdom of France. So very, Very, very good change. Very good change. That basically kills an exploit in the game, so that's good. Knights will more often gain prowess and blade master traits in battle. Love it. Making knights stronger is cool. Large realms now unlikely to convert religion wars. Lowered the attack stat of pikemen. Good, because my elephants were getting a bit skewered. Lowered the recruitment cost of men-at-arms. I like that. Made a number of interactions unavailable if you're at war with the target. So it makes no sense to ask the Pope for money while you're at war with her. Is the Pope a her? Not often. Made diplomacy affect the opinion gained from gifts much more. Good. Military and prestige and piety maintenance costs no longer reduce your fame devotion gain. I didn't even realize that it was reducing that. It's really nice to know that it no longer will. Opinion from multiple elective titles no longer stacks for each title within the law. It happens once per vassal based on their title allegiance as law. Alright. Numbering the enemy now further increases the survivability of your knights. Passion eggs are now a bit more stable at game start. Rebalance debt, so it comes in levels. The higher the level, the harsher the penalties. Penalties include levy reductions to make severely indebted realms collapse easier. Alright, that's going to make my games a bit harder, because I often go into debt. Reclusive characters no longer host feasts. Yeah, makes sense. Remove the stress loss for lustful characters when renouncing celibacy, as it could lead to free stress loss. Significantly nerfed the Resurging Seoshant modifier. I don't actually know what this is, to be honest. Slightly reduce the cost of main holdings. Main holdings being like the buildings you build in them, or no, it's the upgrade to like the castle walls and such. I think. Vastly empower the Mongol Empire's armies. Good. Now you'll truly learn to fear the horsemen of the steppe. Bad. Fair enough. Temujin and Co now starts off with substantial prowess scores. Makes sense. He starts with a full roster of knights as well as a few hand siege engineers. Nice. Mongol Empire is now much more aggressive. Will attack several times per year if the opportunity arises. Scary. You're making me quite scared now. Weak realms are much more likely to agree to subjugation by the Mongol Empire. Borjigan dynasty is no longer obscure and starts with a few warfare legacies unlocked. Ask to take the vows cooldown, increased 10 years. It now costs piety rather than giving you piety. Improves the opinion of your court chaplain and head of faith. It can be used on characters 10 years or older. It can be used on them when they're married. It can be used on them to when they stand to inherit. So you can prune your partition inheritance by disinheriting children using this tool. Nice! That's cool. Costing piety, but taking people out of the succession, that's much better than the other way you take them out of the succession, which is disinheriting, which costs you renown, which you never ever want to lose because it's too bloody good. So yeah, I like that. Their acceptance values have been massively reworked to take many things into account, like having a learning education makes children much more likely to want to go to the church, as if you have a choice. Using it now moves them away from your court to the court of a theocrat in the realm, if there is one, or into the pool. You can't force characters married or betrothed in the incorrect lineality to take the vows, so women in patrilineal marriages. You need a strong hook to force acceptance of take the vows. Weak hooks give a bit of acceptance instead. Makes sense. They're more inclined to buy certain men-at-arms based on their culture. Love to see it. More inclined to recruit their cultural men-at-arms. Love to see it. More likely to request money from their head of faith, especially if their head of faith is very rich. So the Catholics are now going to be harder to fight because the Pope is a very, very, very rich man. And now all the AI will be too. They're reluctant to betroth boys to old women. Good. Only wants to spend money on recruiting guest claimants that have claims on bordering realms. Good. The AI will consider white peace more often. Good. AI will now account for bankruptcy when considering white peace. Starting at negative 100 gold, the AI will then progressively pursue white peace more as they fall deeper into debt. I like that quite a bit. That's good. They'll now only demand conversion from vassals if they have the money to pay their demands, if the vassal is unlikely to simply accept straight up. They'll now take age and fertility into account when marrying away characters of a reputable house, not only their own, which make it less likely for interesting characters to end up in fruitless marriages. Good. Too many times you see very important, like, carlings and such, just married to no one who's ever going to give him the kid, and the dynasty is just dead. So, very good to see that. Ex-slave independence game rule now triggers closer to succession for AI rulers. Good. Ex-slave independence game rule is really important, so making it better is good. Inbred trait is much less likely to be inherited. Yay. But further reduced fertility. Renown gain from alive dynasty members is now capped at 2 per month. Okay, that's a big nerf. Because I do remember getting like 4.5 per month from it, I believe. So yeah, seeing it capped is interesting. Strong Blood Dynasty modifier now only improves the chances of characters with no inherited genetic traits getting a positive one by 400% rather than 40,000? Jesus! That used to be amazing. 400% is... 400% means that chance of getting comely, for instance, is 2.5% instead of 0.5%. Alright. That's good, I guess. Holder of Jerusalem is now unlikely to accept populist demands. Sure. Opinion hit from being unallied as a clan vassal is increased from to 15 for non-powerful vassals and 30 for powerful vassals. This made it really difficult to play as a Muslim. Like, very, very difficult, because you need to be, married to all your vassals, and if that's gone up to 30 for powerful vassals, 15 for non-powerful, that's big. That's really big. Titles automatically destroyed due to ruler getting unlanded now gives the rulers claims if they receive claims on the counties they lost. Nice to see. Turks are more likely to assimilate to local cultures than they were. Alright. Under partition, higher tier titles are no longer reduced the number of counties you get. In practice, what this tends to mean is that some, but not all, cases where your primary heir would get only 1 or 2 counties, they now get more. Very non-zealous characters will now revoke titles from other faith vassals, if that's the best for the realm, presuming there is no tyranny loss. Viking vassals are now more restricted when it comes to overseas conquests. Oh, yes, this is what I was looking for. This is precisely what I was looking for. Nice. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Wandering characters who decide to marry will now prefer to marry a character traveling with them rather than creating a spouse. Alright, fair enough. Winning a great holy war as the attacker now refills all the levies and garrisons in the counties taken. Alright, wounded knights are less likely to die in battle. I like that, because, you don't want to lose your knights. You want to keep them around. That's much better. You can now manage the focus of your children, even if they're landed, as long as you're not... as long as you are their liege. You can revoke the last county of someone who holds a duchy or higher that is impossible to revoke, so head of faith title. That will lead to that higher tier title being destroyed. You must be at peace to create a faith. Your liege now gets opinion of predecessor towards your heir when you die. If they end up your heir's liege and your heir had no liege or a different liege, wandering characters with absurd amounts of gold now tend to spend it on improving themselves. No more inviting wanderers with 7,000 gold and banishing them. I wish I knew about this trick beforehand, because that seems like a big exploit that I've missed out on. We got more restrictions to check if characters are willing to cheat on their partners. Okay, nice. I found the 2 fixes that I really wanted, and now we're done. Yeah, no, we're done. The video over. That's all I needed. That's literally all I needed to see. So I'm really happy with that. Allied culture now starts with compound bows research in 867 as well as 1066. Germania can no longer be created by spiritually headed Christians who must create the HRE instead. Increase the level of Splendor game from the Dynasty of Many Crowns decision from 75 to 1,000. Didn't I recently do this? Yeah, I did recently do this in the World of Darkness campaign that I've got going on. I only got 75. I should have waited until after the patch. Increase the area for Stammerherzogtürme, parts of Bavaria, northern Germany, so all German cultures are able to gain the invasion. Base fortifications slightly for castle holding upgrades. Intimidate vassals are now slightly less deterred from joining factions. Hasten now starts at fame level 5 instead of 6, so you can no longer just open up the game as Hasten and instantly get the achievement for being at the max level of fame, which that's what I did. Made the religious construction county modifier focus on bonuses for temple holding specifically instead of development in general. Nerfed the supplies siege event to grant a total of 20% siege progress down from 40%. Peasant leaders now get a discount on raised levy maintenance, making popular revolts less likely to succumb to crippling debt. Fair enough. Peasants and populist leaders now gain gold contributions from faction members when war is declared so they can pay army maintenance. The gold is removed once the war is ended. Damn it, what about if you capture him, then release him, and then the war ends? Is that possible? Because it always felt a bit strange to me that I've now captured you, but, what can I do with you because you have no gold? I kind of wanted that. Reduced the chance of children reincarnating with an ancestor's sinful personality traits. Removed claimants with a pressed claim from the pool of potential core physicians. Alright. Removed the extra 6th holy site from Alexandria from Waakism. Extra 6 holy sites of Wodan and Kisi from Sigwick and Bedaic faiths, respectively. Restricted the intrigue scheming event, confused heritage to players only as the AI was going a bit wild with it and turning everyone into bastards unnecessarily. Ah, yes! Oh, so many fixes for your partner being, you know, a bit unfaithful. So many fixes. I love it. This is really, really nice to see. They're less likely to want spent gold on guests during war. When their coffers are running low, they should be more inclined to build castle holding upgrades. Good. Regional innovation, that one reduces the likelihood that vassals would join independence factions. 5 to 10 year grace period on game start before populist factions will form. Vassals are now increasingly likely to join factions the more debt their liege is in. Good. Zabrozhinosh, men at arms now counter pikemen in addition to archers. Cool, good, good. Restoring the HRE is now easier and more rewarding, whilst still requiring a decent amount of prestige, realm size, and controlled kingdoms. So, doing a Carling run in 867, trying to, you know, the Charlemagne's heirs forming the HRE might be a bit better. Independence faction now has domains of all faction members as a war goal. When you successfully ask a vassal to end an offensive war, the defender now gets a small opinion boost towards you. Good. Makes sense. Maximum penalty for being over your domain limit is now negative 100% taxes and levies, increased from negative 90. You have killed the North Korea strat. You've killed the North Korea strat. It's dead. It's gone. It's done. It is done. The North Korea strat is gone. So yeah, if you vastly exceed your domain limit for more than 1 year, all buildings will deactivate until your domain limit is lowered. You've killed North Korea. It's just, boom, it's gone. It's just gone. It's done. It's done. Alright, 20 minutes just on balance changes. Now that, I told you it was a meaty dev diary, didn't I? So, for the AI, discourage the AI from doing naval invasions when land invasions are feasible. Thank you. What? What? Just because its liege is a complete coward doesn't mean it should avoid making or joining factions. It should only do so if they themselves are cowed. Or coward, maybe. What? AI willingness to spend on duchy capital buildings. Nice. Inform the AI of the existence of the player when it's trying to spread out to avoid attrition. Inform the AI that it has nothing else to do in a war, it might as well defend the war goal. Good. Russian Vikings are more unlikely to conquer overseas. Good. Better at merging small army stacks. Alright. Sternly told the AI that when it's trying to support the player, it shouldn't try to retreat just because the enemy is coming right at it, except if it hasn't yet arrived at the player's location. Alright. Taught the AI how to count. It will now, when deciding whether to raise its troops, consider all its troops, not just its levies. So it won't refrain from raising its troops just because its levies alone will be pointless to raise. Damn, the AI was a bit stupid, huh? The AI is a bit better at avoiding pushing third-party claims that will lead to the claimant going independent. So for close family members, it'll still do it. Like, I am a king and my cousin has a claim on a kingdom. I will fight for that claim. So we've got a cousin on another throne. They're independent, whatever. But if it's just some random Joe Blogs, then we won't be bothering with that. We'll fight for your duchy claim because you'll not be independent. So, yeah, no, that's much better. The AI is more likely to acquiesce to a faction demand when they're deep in debt. They're no longer more eager to join claimant faction if the claimant is close to death, but instead less likely. They're more likely to create holy orders, but gets less likely to do so the more holy orders of faith has. AI no longer minds matrilineal marriages for men and patrilineal marriages for women in most cases when those marriages are within the same dynasty. Alright, so that's fair enough. AI now wants to recruit guests that it has a positive relation with, for example, friends or lovers. Makes sense. No longer attempt to call a player in against their own heir or spouse. They wouldn't accept, so they should presume the player wouldn't either. Makes sense. AI should no longer bother the player with offensive call to arms if they're the primary defender in a war. Thank you, that's nice to see. That's nice to see. AI will properly revoke holy order leases if they're of a faith. Good. They'll acetate the vows under certain circumstances. Nice. Wait longer to send a new ransom request to the player after they previously denied one. The distance the AI is willing to raid is now based on tier. Oh, yes! Another fix! So many fixes for this really annoying Vikings in the Med thing. That's awesome. If you're a kingdom, in, you know, a Viking kingdom, then you'll raid further than if you're a Viking duchy. Perfect. Perfect. No, that's a great fix. I like it. The AI might as well support the player if there are no enemies around, as long as there's enemies somewhere, rather than running off on its own to go siege something. AI that considering a threat of enemies when you're at sea makes some sense even if they can't get you while you remain at sea. Alright, told the AI that counting the player's enemies twice if they're movement locked and trying to decide if the player needs help or not might lead to some silly decisions. Wait, they count their player's enemies twice if they're movement locked? That's crazy. Why would... what? Okay. AI that hunting down enemy armies in enemy territory is a good idea if it's safe to do so, even if it's currently in defensive mode. It's a good idea to raise more troops than it already has troops raised. It might be a good idea to avoid running into enemy units while raiding. True. Very true. It doesn't make any sense to retreat from a dangerous enemy while at sea. True. It should, but true, yeah. It'd be nice if we have naval combat, is what I'm saying. Shouldn't bother sending support to the player while the player is just moving around at sea. Only once the player is standing still or making landfall does it support make sense. Yep, that makes sense. AI that it's fine to hunt down enemy armies that aren't in either the attacker or defender's territory. It's, if they think it's a battle is equal, doesn't mean it should refrain from piling in more troops to be 100% sure. Yeah, no, if you've got troops standing around and the battle is even, you want to stack it so it's not even, but it's, like, balanced in your favor. Why were they not doing this? It shouldn't pretend it can see your units when it actually can't you to be, oh, yes! Yes! Yes, 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 yes! Yes! Oh, thank you! Thank you, thank you, thank you! This really annoyed me so much. I'm so happy to see that fixed. Oh my god, so much! Oh... It shouldn't pretend it can't see your units when it actually... Wait. No, this is not it. This is not it. This is literally the opposite. The AI doesn't pretend that it can't see you because it can see you 100% of the time. And it acts like it. The AI cheats like a bastard. And this is literally I read this wrong. This is literally the opposite of what I want. This is basically saying to the AI, look, if you can see him, then act like you can see him. They were acting like that anyway, even if they couldn't see us, because the AI cheats like a bastard. Do I see anything from here? Well, we've not got a lot more of the AI left, so let's see. When deciding when to raid, it makes sense to measure the distance by sea, not as a crow flies. Oh, Jesus, okay, yeah, sure. When it has decided to either retreat or stand on to fight, there's no point doing other things like hunting nearby enemy units or trying to merge with a friendly stack. When supporting the player while the player is at sea, it makes sense for it to go the same province rather than stay on land. Not to bother pushing the claims of vassals, its own direct vassals, its courtiers should be plenty. Vikings should now mostly prefer to conquer contiguous areas overseas. Thank you! Another fix for that. The vassals can still go their own way though. When granting titles, the AI now has a small preference for giving away titles it's more recently acquired instead of keeping its older titles. Right. They have not fixed what I really needed them to fix, which was AI cheating with vision, and they've actually made it worse. They've made it worse in a way that, like, this is fine. Like, this on its own is fine. Them acting like they can see you when they can see you, I'm totally fine with. But there's nothing here about the AI acting like they can see you when they can't, or when they shouldn't be able to. So that I'm really quite irritated by. Like, you recognize that there is an issue with the AI's vision and what they do with the vision that they have, but you haven't done it in the player's benefit, and it's the player that's getting really quite pissed off about it. So not happy there. As for the interface, there's not a whole bunch, I think, here that is really really important, but I do like that the developer Easter egg characters are now in the credits. I think that's really cool. So you can, you know, go and try and collect them all, I guess. I do like that quite a bit. But yeah, there's not a whole lot in the in interface that is really cool, but like I say, there's a link to this dev diary in the description, so if you want to dig through these ones, then that's totally cool. But for me, like the AI and the balance, those are the big things that I was really interested in. Interface, it's nice. I was fairly happy with the interface, but it's like I say, there's a lot of just fixes and superfluous things. Like, so it's nice, but it's not something that I'm massively invested in, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, we'll go over to art as well. Again, there's not much that I'm really interested in here. Like, I do love the art. They've just updated some things. There is one thing I really want to point out though, and that is that they have color-coded the education trait icons. There is a mod for this that I no longer need to use because it's just straight up here. Education traits now have colors. I love it. Not everyone is going to be yellow anymore. Great Holy War being actually great. Like that too. Easter egg DNA for Henrik Forhus. I can't pronounce your surname. Foreus, I think. Debbie Lane, Hannah Lerman, Maximilian Olbers, and Bianca Savasi. I know where Debbie Lane is. I've seen her character. I have not seen any of the others, so it'd be fun to find them again. That's pretty cool. Then localization as well. This is all about how the game reads to you. So again, there's some fun stuff in here. If you would like to read it, then please go for it. Renamed the West African culture group to Guinean. That makes sense. I like it. Updated some stuff. Game content. This is again stuff that is important, but not like my primary focus. User modding, massively important to me, but I understand very little of it. So if you're a modder, there's some stuff in here for you as well that you might be very happy with, but I don't know. I love mods. And then finally, we've got databases, which is where Rose will be taking over. So if you would like to read the rest of this dev diary, which goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on, and on, for over 1,000 lines, then please do head on over to Enigmatic Rose 4's channel, where she will be going over the rest of the Dev Diary patch notes. As well, if you would like to subscribe or follow the No CB Cast, that is the podcast that both myself and Rose are hosts of, where we will be going over the patch notes as well on the podcast this Wednesday at 10:30 my time, which is like UTC +2, so 8:30 British time. Whatever that time zone is for you, that's when we're going to go live. There's a link to all of the stuff in the description below. Rose's channel, Rose's video, the No CB Cast over on Twitch, all of my own links and stuff as well. Go follow them all, because they're all of the links are there for a reason. You should go look at them. Great Dev Diary. There's some really good stuff in there. Some fixes that I think the game desperately needed, and I'm glad to see them there. Some fixes that the game desperately needs, and I'm very disappointed to not see them there. But overall, great stuff. And yeah, thank you all very much for watching. If you would like to support me, then I've got a Patreon page, link in the description. Leave some comments. What's your favorite patch note? Did you come from Rose's channel? If you're from here and you're going over to Rose, say hi from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.